How is everybody?
Awake and ready.
For those who don't know us, I am Nayaswami Daiva, and this is Nayaswami Gangamata. And we have kind of a big day today. It is a couple of lovely topics. It's beautiful outside. The topics are, of course, peace of mind and living in the eternal now. And then it is also Father's Day. So congratulations to all you fathers. Happy and blessed day to you. And then in addition, it's the longest day of the year, and it's International Yoga Day. Believe it or not, the UN has declared an International Day of Yoga to honor what we've been doing for a very long time and what yogis have been doing for millennia. And in honor of that, Bob, we've got is going to show us a little bit of a video. So, this is momentous. You know, we've been bringing the yogis, the masters have been bringing these sacred teachings more and more out into daily life, and so it's great that the world is coming together around these values. So.
On 27 September 2014, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi proposed an International Day of Yoga at the United Nations General Assembly.
I have great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of the Republic of India, His Excellency Narendra Modi.
Today, I would like to draw your attention to another subject. When we talk about climate change, when we talk about holistic healthcare, when we talk about unity with nature, when we talk about getting back to basics, I would like to say something special about this subject. Yoga is our ancient, traditional, and invaluable gift. Yoga symbolizes the balance of body and mind, thought and action, achievement and self-control, and the coming together of human beings and nature. It provides a comprehensive vision of health and well-being. It is not merely physical exercise, but also a means of building harmony within oneself and with the world and nature. Yoga aims at transformation of our lifestyle, and its awareness can help us in our struggle against climate change. Let us work towards making a beginning in this direction with an International Day of Yoga.
The origins of yoga can be found over 5,000 years ago in the Indus-Saraswati Valley civilization. Archaeologists discovered carvings, seals, and artifacts displaying yoga-like practices, poses, and greetings, similar to those found later in the depictions of Pashupati, Rudra, and the god Shiva.
The word yoga comes from Sanskrit and came into popular usage during the Vedic period around 1000 BC. The word comes from the root yuj, which means to bind, to yoke, to align, or to hold.
Yoga was well known across India and began to appear in Vedic scripture, particularly the Upanishads, as well as in Buddhist and Jain teachings of that age. The Upanishads speak of 4 types of yoga practices: mantra, or the repetitions of sacred sounds; laya, or devotional connection to a higher being; hatha, or the channelization of internal energies; and Raja Yoga, or what came to be known as Dhyan or Ashtanga Yoga. In the 2nd century BC, the teachings of yoga were codified into a written scripture known as the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Om, now yoga is explained. Yoga is the stilling of the modifications of the mind stuff so the seer can see their true and original selves.
According to Patanjali, the purpose of yoga is to overcome the attachments to the physical world in order to realize one's true consciousness.
According to the Taittiriya Upanishad, the human being is made up of 5 layers or koshas that act in unison.
When the koshas are out of balance, they lead to disease, disharmony, and suffering. When brought together through yoga, they lead to a state of perfect health, a meditative mind, and pure bliss. To align the koshas together and restore harmony, Patanjali prescribed a system for yogis called Ashtanga, or the 8-limbed path.
Throughout India's long history, yoga has been integral to everyday life, and most religions and philosophies used its practices in their rituals and methods. In the Middle Ages, 2 great teachers revived the practice of yoga. In the 8th century, Adi Shankara brought the Upanishads and yoga back into popular consciousness, and Gorakshanath of the Nath Sampadaya brought about the revival of Hatha Yoga at around the same time. From the 1890s, many Indian teachers brought yoga to the world, like Swami Vivekananda in 1893, who introduced the world to Vedanta and Raja Yoga, and Swami Yoganand in 1920, who introduced the world to Kriya and Kundalini Yoga. Teachers like Swami Shivanand, Swami Rama, Swami Satchitanand, Swami Kovalayanand, Sri Yogendra Ji, and other great yogis also spread the deeper aspects of yoga around the world. One of the most influential yoga teachers in the 20th century was Sri Krishnamacharya. His students B.K.S. Iyengar, K. Pattibha Joyce, and his son Desikacharya became 3 of the leading exponents of yoga and helped spread it around the world. Today, yoga has gone well beyond those early pioneers. Teachers like Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, Pujya Swamiji, Baba Ramdev, Swami Niranjan, and Sadguru Jaggi Vasudev are keeping the flame of classical yoga alive around the world. The benefits of yoga are now being recognized by science and mainstream medicine.
In India, the healing powers of yoga have been known for thousands of years, and along with Ayurveda, has been critical to Indian healthcare in the prevention of diseases, promotion of higher consciousness, and the management of wellness, to give the practitioner freedom. The practice of yoga brings about balance, well-being, happiness, and the freedom to live life fully. As more and more people take up yoga around the world today, we may actually see the beginning of a global shift in consciousness, leading to a more balanced and harmonious planet. Yoga practitioners become more conscious consumers, better human beings, more environmentally conscious, and good leaders. This is the power of yoga, and it can only be good for the world.
On 11th December 2014, the United Nations passed a resolution making 21st June the International Day of Yoga. 177 nations co-sponsored the resolution, a record in UN history.
So, 177 nations gave support and voice to that resolution, and there are only a little over 200 nations in the world. So that's quite a sweeping statement. And it's nice to be sharing, and to have been sharing this across decades now with others who are helping to bring a new state of consciousness to this troubled planet. As is not infrequent, I have no idea how to pick up the service today. It's a remarkable topic. At the very heart of life, at the very heart of everything we yearn for, everyone yearns for, is wholeness, is a meaningful connection to life, is joy, is peace of mind, is freedom, is a sense of immortality. You know, when I was young, I used to think that that when I got old, I'd be ready to die. It'd just be, it's just a natural part of it. But I realized that there's something inherently false about the thought of dying. There's something inherently wrong about it because it implies the end of something. It implies the absence of consciousness, the absence of life. It's like being a child. Who has not been around a child who has gotten overstimulated and is just absolutely exhausted and refuses to go to sleep? Right? No. And they just, because they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose the moment. They don't want to lose the connection to awareness and consciousness. And we all know, of course, that the best thing that can happen is they can take a break, go to sleep, wake up refreshed, get out of the hyperstimulated state. Every single person without exception, unless perhaps they are already a liberated master, every single person, when they get overstimulated, when they get exhausted, when they have run a cycle, they do what? They go to sleep. We take time out. We go into the silence. We go into stillness. We go away from the stimulations of this world into our own center. We recede from the senses into the center. And Yogananda said sleep is pseudo-samadhi. It's fake communion because we do it without being aware that we're doing it. We rest back into spirit, back into the source from whence we came, but we're not aware. And so he said, and this is the same with sleep. This is the same with going into subconscious states. It's the same as with the sun. If you go out in the sun, he said, you'll draw beneficial rays and benefit from the sunlight. But he said, if you do it consciously, you can draw up to 100 times more vitality from the sun's rays than just simply basking in the sun kind of in a subconscious mode. Same thing is true of receding from the senses and going into the stillness inside. We will do it. We have to do it. It's a part of our nature to do it. This is not our home. For all of the illusion of it and how comfortable we get with it, this is not our home. And every single night, every single day at some point, we recede from this. And if we don't, we feel increasingly the price we pay. Who here has ever gone on a sleepless binge? How far can you go? Think about how long you've been alive. Think about how long you can go without food, think about how long you can go without sleep. And what happens the farther down the road you go without sleep, without that regeneration? You become delusional. You start to hallucinate after just a very short period of time. Within 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours, we start to become completely dysfunctional. And the masters all say, at the core of every true religion is meditation, are practices to take us into stillness. Christianity has contemplative prayer. Buddhism has meditation. Hinduism has meditation. The Sufis, they dance, they spin until they become so outside themselves that stillness sets in. Every single gesture that's true at the core of every religion is designed to take us into that center. And that's all that's being said. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. I wanted to read just a little bit, because out of that stillness, in that presence, we find something that's eternal. We find the eternal presence and peace of God, the peace that passeth understanding, as the Bible says. This is 104 from Whispers from Eternity, Paramahansa Yogananda's book of prayer, demands, and poems. Number 104, let all rest in the shade of my peace. The breeze of thy love wafts over me, O Father. Leaves on my tree of life tremble gently in response to thy coming. My soul blossoms have begun to awaken. The rustling murmur of my thought leaves, whispering in the ether, calls to all matter-weary beings to come rest in the shade of my peace, received from thee. Weekly, we read from the promise from Rays of the One Light, and it is parallel passages from the Bible and Bhagavad Gita, showing that there is one truth that God brings to different peoples, different races, different cultures, in a language that their own hearts can understand. The clarion call back, and yoga transcends all religion, especially Raja Yoga, royal yoga. Because what it does is it gives us the tools to experience for ourselves. Somebody once said, religion is other people's experience. Spirituality is our own. And then somebody else said, religion is for those who are afraid to go to hell. Spirituality is for those who have already been there. This is from the Promise of Immortality. It's deeper explorations into the different topics of yoga relative to those readings each week. The eternal present. We have been discussing the spiritual path, how to move forward on it, how to avoid slipping back, how to regain lost ground if one does slip. It is not only theoretically interesting, but of immense importance to realize that no path actually exists except in our own perception. As long as here and now relate to there and then, they are unfixed and temporary. Space and time are mists, sectioned off by mind-made beginnings and endings. Beyond them, so Paramahansa Yogananda said, lies endlessness. The illusion of space and time is produced by movements of thought in divine consciousness. It is by movement or vibration that cosmic creation is manifested. Without movement, absolute consciousness alone would remain. Movement actually produces the space within which it vibrates. Without movement, the relativities of past, present, and future could not exist. The universe itself is finite in time and space. Modern physics, in fact, declares it so. What scientists have not addressed is the further phenomenon that the universe is as large and as long-lasting as consciousness makes it. That is how scientists can state that outside the universe literally nothing exists. To which fact the yogi might add a whimsical paradox. There is nothing there for it to not exist in. It's fun that these overlap. Father's Day. Because when God as spirit unmanifested just exists, but in the dream of God, where creation is made manifest, vibration is the thing that makes it possible. God vibrated the Amen, the Om, and it's that duality of vibration that is creation. And then he wove his consciousness into it. God the Son. The awareness of God, the consciousness of God in every moment of creation, permeating the very vibrations of this reality, which is what gives Jesus the right to say in his fully wakeful state, wherever two or more are gathered, there am I. Beyond time and space, he doesn't say, I'll get there when I have time, or when I'm done with these folks over there, or as soon as I can. It's there am I in the very moment when even two thoughts come together about God. There is that presence of spirit. In creation, everything is dual, and God created male and female, heat and cold, up and down. The male aspect of creation is that which is outward, that which is ruled by reason. And then he created, in balance to that, that which is inward and that which is ruled by feeling. Notice I did not say emotion. And notice I didn't say by thinking. The distortions of reason and the distortions of feeling are the oscillations, the alternating currents of likes and dislikes, and driven by the senses, driven by the outer experiences, driven by habit. What are qualities of the female, of the feminine principle? Softness, compassion, love, forgiveness, kindness, consideration. What are aspects of the male? Self-possession, austerity, clarity of thought and mind, the law. Think about if you had just a law-driven culture, just a law-driven world. A world ruled by theory and by male principles. It'd be pretty austere, it'd be pretty scary. It would be will-driven, and to a large degree, you add to that the predilections of the ego, and actually you have pretty much what we have in this world right now. It's a male-driven event that is driven by will, driven by isolation, driven by self-justification, and is very martial. Think if you just had a female or feminine-driven world. Everything was touchy-feely, everything was nice and soft, but there wasn't any fire to get things done. We're just going to enjoy each other. We're going to forgive everything. And think how mushy it would be. We need the balance. We need the balance between the male and the female principles. We need them expressed by those who can carry them. We incarnate into this world as men and women to explore those principles and explore expressing them. But as yogis, we should outgrow just a single definition. We should outgrow, if you're a male, you should outgrow being a man and start to adopt more of the feminine principle. And as a woman, you should outgrow just being in the feminine model and start to adopt the wisdom and the insights and clarity of mind of the male model. There's a story of the early days of Ananda. We have an 8-hour meditation once a year where we come together and go deep into the presence of Christ and really hold ourselves there to be uplifted and have our consciousness changed. And somebody opened their eyes. They were sitting, this is many, many years ago, in the dome at the meditation retreat. And there may be 100 people, 120 people in there meditating. And they opened their eyes, and all of the women in the room were sitting there, meditating, their eyes closed and deeply focused and just really going for it. And all the men were sitting back with a gentle smile on their faces, just drinking in the presence of spirit. They just loved the fact that it was such a contradistinction to what you would expect. And just a balancing thing. And you see that in the lives of people on the path, people who are reaching for God. You see that balancing element. There's a little moment in the autobiography of a yogi where Yogananda, he adored his mother. They had a special bond. And Swami actually said that Yogananda's mother was an incarnation of Divine Mother. It was a tremendously powerful presence. And it nourished him. And she died when he was very young. She died, I think, when he was 11. And there are many stories around that are worth talking about. But he said something very interesting. He said after his mother's passing, his father's eyes somehow subtly mutated, subtly changed, and held there more of the presence of the Divine Mother. And his naturally austere nature, his naturally masculine nature, really started to take on the qualities of the Divine Mother as well in a balancing form. Today is a celebration of fathers. And thank God for fathers, thank God for fathers, for men and women who take on the role of husbanding a family. Being a father is a thankless job by design. And if we do it well, it should remain that way. The father's job, he helps bring life, but then his job is to protect that life and to give the space that life needs in order to grow. The woman's job is to nurture the home, to nourish the home, to create a place where life, where softness and kindness and goodness and wholeness and forgiveness and beauty and light can happen and nourish the growing souls inside the nest. And the father's job is to go out and make sure that nest can exist, to go away from the home often for much time, to create the resources and the power, and then to protect the boundary of that nest to make sure that it has a chance to come to full flower. I remember in my own years of parenting just the impossible conundrum of trying to be a good father and in impossible circumstances. And then I thought, it's not so rare. We have soldiers who travel around the world, many of whom have families and children at home. And they go for the sake of creating a protective nest that can hold the values, hold the possibility of a life worth living for their children and for all children. We have men who work many, many, many long hours and days, far past convenience and comfort, to make sure that there's ample food on the table and all the things needed to hold their children and their children's mothers in a place of safety and abundance. These are divine qualities. These are expressions of the divine as much as the woman's role as well. And it's great that we take time to celebrate that and really honor it. We're moving into a time when we need to grow past these roles, when we need to come together globally. And this International Day of Yoga is facilitating that. It's reflecting the fact that it's happening. But we need to grow into a time where we work together to bring pure reason and bring pure feeling to the forefront of life's experiences. And I really call on everybody in this room. I really invite everybody in this room. It will never happen, as long as we're caught in the world, alternating waves of feeling, alternating waves of thought and impression. I like this, I don't like that. This is how it should be, that's how it should be. Look at your own life. Look back at the things you were certain of 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, yesterday, and just how uncertain they are that they will still be in the same place in your heart and mind tomorrow and next year and next month. In the face of what is possible in life, in the face of what drives you, unless you're anchored deeply in the presence of Spirit, in the stillness that never changes. That's what these masters have. That's what Jesus brought to this world. That's what Krishna held, was the unchanging joy and wholeness and freedom and love in the face of all the ups and downs. Even death couldn't change Jesus' sense of what was true and what was eternal. And he said, death is the last thing you'll conquer. And then he proved it, that death was conquerable. 3 days later, there he is wandering around. We were in Israel. And what a troubled country. This great, great light is there. And the people so miss the point that they spend their time slaughtering each other. Just century after century after century. We were there, and a lot of the imaginings of my mind from the biblical stories was shattered. Because, the Sea of Galilee is not a sea, it's a lake. And, when they say that Jesus was getting harassed by all the crowds around him, and he and the disciples got on a boat and they sailed across the sea to another beach, to another place to escape the crowds. And the crowds followed them. I thought, how the heck is that possible? They're sailing across the sea. Well, it's a lake, and you just watch the boat sail off from here and go over there. You just walk along the shore. There's no trees. It's a desert. The immediacy, the intimacy of what God brings to our lives through these great masters. It's divine friendship. It's simplicity. It's not someplace else. It's not grandiose. The glory is inside in the presence of this. The disciples betrayed Jesus in the most desperate moment. Picture what that would feel like. They knew who he was, and they knew what he'd done to affect their lives. And yet, when he was being crucified, they denied him. And then he was gone. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They went back to fishing. And Peter maybe carried the heaviest burden of all that. And there they are, fishing at night on this little sea, little lake. And they're coming in, the dawn is rising over the Golan Heights. And they can see through the mists across the water. There's somebody on the shore where they're sailing. And they get closer and they see it's Jesus. And without thinking, Peter just dives off the boat and swims to shore. And he says, "My Lord." And Jesus just smiles at him and says, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yes, I love you." And he says, "Do you love me?" And he says, "Yes, I love you." And he says, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yes, Lord, I love you." 3 times, the same number of times he denied him. And then he says, "That's it. That's it." That love, the recognition of that love washes everything else away. He's acting on behalf of the Father, and he says, love reconditions the heart. It resets everything, puts us back. And then what does he do? He cooks them breakfast. He cooks them breakfast. The most human and fundamental gesture. He just cooks them breakfast. And there they are together. Everything different. That's the story of the path. That's the gift of yoga. That's the gift of God through these masters. And that's the gift we should give each other. That's the gift that Yogananda brought into our lives, that Swami Kriyananda held to make Ananda possible. Ananda served more, believe it or not, than the 177 countries that endorsed this International Day of Yoga. Last year it served over 200 countries. We're a part of that great movement. Let's feel inside right now. Let's sit up straight. To the degree that we tune into the stillness inside, that we use the practices given by these masters to take us deep into the stillness of spirit, into the eternal now, into the peace of mind, the joy, the freedom. To that degree, we become channels for that light into this world. And we fulfill the International Day of Yoga. We fulfill Father's Day. We fulfill every gesture, every need in this world through our presence in God. Music.
So this is a song by another guy, a dad and king from a long time ago, from even before the period that Daiva was describing, King David. And it's a psalm he wrote with music by Swami Kriyananda, and it's an early celebration of the benefits of yoga. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, who made the heavens and the earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, and even for